Ravi's life had turned into a pattern of quiet survival. Years ago, he had been full of laughter, dreams, and hope, but those dreams had been buried the day he lost his wife in an accident. Since then, every day had been a mixture of responsibility and silent endurance. He woke before sunrise, cooked breakfast for his little daughter Mira, worked long hours in his small furniture workshop, and returned home tired yet determined. He was not rich. His wooden chairs and tables brought in enough money to cover food, school fees, and bills, but nothing more. There were no luxuries, no holidays, and sometimes no rest. Yet, for Ravi, every sacrifice felt worth it whenever he saw Mira's bright smile. At just 9 years old, she had learned to be strong in her own way, never demanding what she knew her father could not afford. But even this fragile balance was threatened when the landlord suddenly increased their rent. The news had shaken Ravi. He had no savings to depend on, and he could not let Mira feel the insecurity of losing their home. After many sleepless nights, he made a decision he never thought he would. He would rent out the small spare room at the back of the house. It was plain, with faded paint and an old wooden bed, but it could bring in a little extra money to help them stay afloat. Days passed with no inquiries. Then came the night that would change everything. The storm arrived with heavy rain and loud thunder that rattled the windows. The streets outside were nearly empty, with water rushing down the narrow lanes. Mira had already gone to bed after finishing her homework, and Ravi was fixing a broken chair in the corner when a sudden knock echoed at the door. It was unusual. Few people visited at night, and certainly not in such weather. Ravi wiped his hands on a cloth and walked to the door. When he opened it, he froze in surprise. A young girl stood there, completely drenched. Her simple clothes clung to her like a second skin, her hair was messy and wet, and her eyes looked swollen as if she had been crying for hours. She held a small handbag tightly against her chest, as though it was the only thing she owned in the world. "Please," her voice trembled. I need a place to stay for tonight. I can pay tomorrow." Ravi blinked, trying to understand. She looked no older than 20, yet her expression carried a weight of sorrow far beyond her years. He noticed how her hands shivered from the cold and how she avoided his gaze, as though she was afraid he might shut the door in her face. "Who are you?" Ravi asked carefully. The girl quickly wiped her tears with the back of her hand and whispered, "My name is Anika. I don't have anywhere else to go tonight." Before Ravi could respond, a small voice came from behind him. "Papa? Who is it?" It was Mira, standing at the doorway of her room, her eyes wide with curiosity. Ravi turned and gave her a reassuring nod. "It's all right, Mira. Go back inside." But his daughter, like always, wanted to know more. She peered at the soaked stranger with innocent concern. Anika lowered her head, ashamed. She hated being seen in such a state, but she had nowhere else to run. For a long moment, Ravi stood there, torn between caution and compassion. He was not a man who trusted strangers easily, yet something in Anika's broken voice reminded him of the loneliness he himself had once felt. He remembered those nights after his wife's passing when the world had seemed too heavy, and no door had opened for him except his own. Finally, with a deep breath, Ravi stepped aside. "Come in. You'll catch a fever if you stay out there any longer." Anika's eyes widened in disbelief. She hadn't expected kindness from a stranger, not after the coldness she had faced all day. Slowly, she stepped into the small house, dripping rainwater onto the floor. Ravi showed her the spare room at the back. "It isn't much," he admitted, "but it's warm and safe." Anika clutched her bag tightly and whispered, thank you so much. Ravi nodded without asking further questions. He gave her a towel and left her to change into some old clothes that once belonged to his late wife. Meanwhile, Mira, still curious, whispered to her father, Papa, why was she crying? Ravi sighed softly. Sometimes, people carry pain they cannot explain, Mira. It's better to show kindness than to ask too many questions. That night, as the storm raged outside, Anika lay awake in the small room, staring at the ceiling. She thought about everything she had left behind: the luxury, the comfort, the name that carried power. None of it mattered now. Here, she was not the daughter of a millionaire CEO. She was just a girl running from her own battles, grateful for a stranger's roof over her head. What Ravi didn't know was that this simple act of compassion was the first thread in a story that would soon weave all their lives together in ways none of them could have imagined. The morning after the storm, the sun rose slowly, spilling soft light through the curtains of Ravi's small home. The air smelled of damp earth, and tiny drops still clung to the leaves outside. Inside, the house was filled with the simple routine that always began Ravi's day. He was already in the kitchen, preparing breakfast: warm porridge with a touch of milk and sugar, just the way Miro liked it. He moved quietly, his hands steady but his mind still restless. His thoughts kept returning to the girl who had knocked on his door the night before. Who was she? Why was she crying? And why did she have nowhere to go? Ravi had never been the kind of man to invite strangers in. But the desperation in her eyes had left him no choice. He shook his head, reminding himself not to overthink. Sometimes people just needed a chance. Papa, Mira's cheerful voice rang out as she walked into the kitchen, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Is the girl still here? Ravi glanced at the closed door of the spare room. Yes. Let her rest. She must be very tired. But just then, the door opened slowly, and Anika stepped out. She looked shy and uncertain, wearing a simple cotton dress that had once belonged to Ravi's late wife. The dress was a little loose on her, but it was clean and dry. Her wet clothes from last night hung neatly on a chair to dry. Good morning, Anika said softly, her voice still carrying a hint of nervousness. Good morning, Ravi replied, offering her a polite nod. Mira, on the other hand, greeted her with open curiosity. Did you sleep well? The little girl asked innocently. Anika smiled faintly, touched by the child's warmth. Yes, thank you. Much better than I expected. Ravi placed 3 bowls of porridge on the small wooden table. Sit. Eat something. At first, Anika hesitated. She wasn't used to sitting at the table of strangers, sharing their food. But the kindness in Ravi's tone left her no room to refuse. She quietly took a seat, and the 3 of them ate together. For a while, the silence was only broken by the clinking of spoons. Mira, however, could never stay quiet for long. So, Anika Didi, she said with a grin, are you going to live here now? Anika almost choked on her porridge, glancing quickly at Ravi. Ravi cleared his throat. That depends. She needs a place to stay, and we need some extra income. If she agrees, she can rent the room. Anika lowered her eyes to her bowl, her thoughts racing. She had money far more than this family could imagine, but she couldn't reveal it. Not now. The reason she had left her home was tied to that very wealth, to the life of luxury that had suffocated her. She wanted to escape it, to find herself without being judged by her last name. I can pay, she said quietly. But, not right now. I need a little time. Ravi studied her carefully. She didn't look like the kind of girl who belonged on the streets. Even in a simple cotton dress, there was a grace in the way she held herself. But he didn't press further. That's fine, he said at last. You can stay until you manage. The room is yours. A wave of relief washed over Anika. She nodded gratefully, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. The days that followed began to weave a new rhythm in the household. Anika was quiet, polite, and always willing to help. She washed her dishes, swept the floor without being asked, and even offered to walk Mira to school one morning. At first, Ravi felt uneasy. He wasn't used to anyone interfering in his daily life. But he couldn't deny that Anika's presence brought a certain warmth to their home. Mira, especially, grew attached to her. She would chatter endlessly about school, her friends, and her dreams, and Anika would listen with patience that only someone hungry for simple human connection could show. Still, Ravi noticed the sadness in Anika's eyes whenever she thought no one was watching. Sometimes she sat by the window at night, staring at the stars with a faraway look, as if remembering another world. One evening, Ravi found her like that. The lamp on the table glowed softly, and Anika's face was touched with quiet sorrow. You don't have to tell me anything, Ravi said gently, but, whatever you're carrying, I hope it becomes lighter here. Anika looked at him in surprise. She wasn't used to such words. Most people had either wanted something from her or judged her without understanding. Here was a man who asked for nothing, who only offered a safe corner of his world. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know how to explain. But your kindness means more than you think. Ravi gave a small nod and left her to her thoughts. That night, Anika lay awake in her room. She thought of her father, the powerful man whose empire stretched across the city, the man whose expectations had crushed her spirit. She thought of the life she had left behind, a life filled with riches but empty of love. For the first time in years, she felt a strange peace in this modest home. Perhaps this was where her new story would begin. But deep down, she knew that secrets never stayed hidden forever. Life slowly began to change in Ravi's small home after Anika moved in. What was once a quiet house filled only with the sounds of Mira's laughter and Ravi's steady footsteps now had a new rhythm. Anika's presence was gentle yet noticeable, like a soft melody that blended with the simple life they lived. She woke early, often before Ravi, and helped in small ways without being asked. She would sweep the floor, fold laundry, or pack Mira's school lunch. Sometimes she would hum quietly as she worked, her voice carrying a sweetness that reminded Ravi of long-forgotten days when his wife had done the same. Mira, on the other hand, grew closer to Anika each day. She followed her around with endless questions and stories. Anika Didi, will you braid my hair, she would ask in the mornings. Or, will you come to my school play? Her young heart had quickly accepted Anika as part of their little world. Ravi noticed these changes but said little. He still guarded his heart, afraid of trusting someone too quickly. Yet he couldn't deny that Anika's kindness had made their days lighter. One evening, as Ravi worked in his workshop, shaping wood into a chair, he heard soft laughter from the yard. Curious, he stepped outside. There he saw Mira running in circles with a skipping rope, while Anika clapped and counted aloud. One more, Mira. You can do it. Anika encouraged, her eyes shining with genuine joy. Mira skipped with determination until she stumbled and fell onto the grass, bursting into laughter. Anika laughed with her, helping her up. Ravi stood silently for a moment, watching. He realized he hadn't seen such carefree happiness in his daughter for a long time. A part of him softened, though he quickly returned to his work before either of them noticed him watching. That night, after dinner, Mira leaned against Anika as they sat on the floor with their school books spread out. "You explain better than Papa," she said with a giggle as Anika helped her with sums. Ravi raised an eyebrow at that, pretending to be offended. "Oh really? So now I'm not good enough?" Mira only giggled more, while Anika hid a small smile. Later, when Mira had gone to bed, Ravi spoke quietly. "You don't have to help with her studies. You're a guest here." Anika shook her head gently. "I don't feel like a guest. I feel at home here." Her words hung in the air, carrying a weight that made Ravi pause. He looked at her carefully, sensing again that she carried untold stories behind her soft eyes. But he did not ask. He had learned long ago that some wounds only healed when left unspoken. Days turned into weeks. The monsoon faded, leaving behind clear skies and the fresh scent of new beginnings. Ravi's household had settled into a new normal. Yet, even in this peace, Anika's secret identity remained hidden. One Sunday morning, when Ravi returned from the market with vegetables, he found Anika sitting on the veranda with a small notebook. She quickly shut it when she saw him, as though guarding a treasure. "What do you write?" he asked casually, setting down the bags. Anika hesitated. "Just thoughts. Things I don't say out loud." Ravi nodded. He understood the need for silence. After all, he too had journals filled with unsent letters to his late wife, words he could never speak. But that night, Ravi noticed something else. A car had slowed down outside their lane, its tinted windows reflecting the dim streetlight. It paused near the house, as if watching, before driving away. Ravi thought little of it at first. Their lane was quiet, but sometimes strangers lost their way. Yet a faint unease settled in his heart. Inside, Anika was at the table, helping Mira cut out shapes from colored paper for a school project. Her face glowed with a smile, but every now and then, Ravi caught a flicker of fear in her eyes, as though she was always listening for footsteps that might find her. That night, when Mira had gone to sleep, Ravi finally spoke. "Anika," he said slowly, "you don't have to tell me everything. But I want to know, are you safe? Is someone looking for you?" Anika froze. Her hands tightened on the edge of the table. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Finally, she whispered, I'm not in danger. At least, not the way you think. But I needed to get away. From my life. From expectations I could no longer carry." Ravi studied her, his eyes calm but firm. "If that life comes looking for you, it might affect Mira too. And I cannot let that happen." Anika's heart ached at his words. She admired the way he spoke, not harshly, not cruelly, but with the quiet strength of a father who had lost too much already. She wanted to tell him everything, about her father's empire, about the pressure that had suffocated her, about the reason she had walked away from her mansion with nothing but a handbag. But the words would not come. Instead, she said softly, "I promise. I won't bring trouble to your door." Ravi held her gaze for a moment, then gave a slow nod. He decided not to push further. Trust, he knew, was something that built itself over time. As Anika returned to her room that night, she sat by the window and looked out at the quiet street. A part of her longed to believe this small, modest life could truly be hers. But deep inside, she knew the truth: sooner or later, the world she had run away from would find her. And when it did, nothing would ever be the same again. The days in Ravi's small house flowed like a gentle river. Morning sunlight filtered through thin curtains, Mira's laughter filled the rooms, and the evenings were spent with the smell of simple meals and the sound of quiet conversation. For Anika, this life was unlike anything she had ever known. It was ordinary, but in that ordinariness, she found a strange kind of peace. She no longer woke up to the noise of servants or the constant ringing of phones. She no longer had to dress in designer clothes or sit at long, polished tables where silence hung heavier than words. Instead, she woke up to the sound of Ravi's kettle whistling in the kitchen and Mira's little footsteps running across the floor. She wore simple clothes and ate meals that were cooked with care, not perfection. Yet, despite the comfort, she couldn't shake the shadows of her past. One afternoon, while walking Mira home from school, Anika overheard two mothers whispering by the gate. "Doesn't she look familiar?" one said, glancing at Anika. "Yes, but I can't place it." "Maybe I saw her picture somewhere," the other replied. Anika quickly lowered her gaze and walked faster, holding Mira's hand tightly. Her heart raced. She had always known it was only a matter of time before someone recognized her. "Anika Didi, why are you walking so fast?" Mira asked, struggling to keep up. Anika forced a smile. "Just a little tired, that's all. Let's hurry home." Back at the house, Ravi noticed her pale face. "Are you all right?" he asked as he arranged tools in his workshop. "I'm fine," she said quickly, avoiding his eyes. But inside, she felt the old fear returning. That evening, when Ravi stepped outside to buy groceries, Anika sat alone with Mira. The little girl was coloring in her notebook. She suddenly looked up and asked, "Didi, do you have a family?" The question struck Anika like a sudden wind. She froze, unsure how to answer. After a pause, she said softly, "Yes. I do." "Then why don't you live with them?" Mira tilted her head innocently. Anika swallowed hard. "Because sometimes, even when you have a family, you feel alone. And sometimes, you need to go away to understand who you are." Mira, too young to fully understand, simply nodded and went back to her coloring. But the innocence of the question lingered in Anika's mind long after. Later that night, as she stood by the window, she thought of her father. A man respected and feared by many, who had built an empire with sharp decisions and endless ambition. To the world, he was a symbol of success. But to her, he was a shadow that demanded perfection and obedience. She had tried to please him for years, studying in the best schools, attending every event, wearing the perfect smile. But no matter what she did, it was never enough. His love had always been measured, given only when she achieved something that added to his pride. The warmth she longed for had never come. That was why she had walked away. To escape the golden cage that suffocated her. But would she ever truly be free? One weekend, Ravi decided to take Mira to the park. "Come with us," he invited Anika. At first, she hesitated. She had avoided crowded places, afraid of being recognized. But Mira's pleading eyes were hard to resist. "Please, Didi. Come play with me." So Anika agreed. The park was alive with children's laughter, families sitting on benches, and the smell of roasted corn drifting in the air. Mira ran ahead, dragging Anika toward the swings. Anika laughed, the sound surprising even herself, as she pushed Mira higher and higher. Ravi watched them from a distance, a rare smile softening his face. For a moment, they looked like a family: a father, daughter, and older sister. Something inside him stirred, a fragile hope he had long buried. But peace never lasted long. As they walked back home, a man selling newspapers passed by, his voice loud as he waved the day's headlines. Anika froze when her eyes accidentally fell on the front page. There was a picture of her father, standing in front of his towering office building. The headline read, "CEO Rajiv Malhotra speaks on daughter's disappearance." Her heart pounded. She turned her face quickly, hoping neither Ravi nor Mira noticed. But Ravi, with his sharp eyes, saw the flicker of panic in her expression. That night, after Mira had fallen asleep, Ravi found Anika sitting in the dark, staring at the same newspaper she had secretly brought inside. "You're hiding something," he said quietly, pulling out a chair across from her. Anika's fingers trembled as she held the paper. She wanted to deny it, to create another excuse. But she was tired of carrying the weight of secrets, tired of pretending to be someone she wasn't. She looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I am not who you think I am." Ravi remained calm, waiting. With a trembling voice, she whispered, "I'm the daughter of Rajiv Malhotra." The name hung in the air like thunder. Ravi's eyes widened in shock. Everyone knew that name. The millionaire whose empire ruled over industries, whose face appeared in magazines and newspapers, whose decisions shaped lives. And sitting in front of him, in his humble house, was his daughter disguised as a lost girl in need of shelter. Ravi leaned back slowly, his thoughts racing. He looked at Anika, not with judgment, but with a new weight of understanding. Nothing would ever be the same again. The night felt heavier after Anika's confession. The sound of crickets outside the window faded into silence, and the small clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. Ravi sat motionless, his eyes fixed on Anika as if trying to read the truth directly from her soul. "You're saying," he spoke slowly, his voice low but steady, "that you're the daughter of Rajiv Malhotra?" Anika nodded, her hands tightening around the newspaper she held. "Yes. I know it's hard to believe. But it's the truth." Ravi leaned back in his chair, struggling to process it. The name Rajiv Malhotra was not unknown to him. He had seen it in headlines, heard it in business discussions, and read it on buildings across the city. Malhotra was a man of power and influence, a figure so far removed from Ravi's modest world that the thought of his daughter sitting in his kitchen felt unreal. For a long moment, Ravi didn't speak. His thoughts raced. If what she said was true, then why was she here? Why would the daughter of one of the richest men in the city come knocking at his door on a stormy night? Anika, sensing his doubt, lowered her gaze. "I didn't come here to lie. I came here because I couldn't stay there anymore. That world, it never felt like home." Her voice cracked slightly, but she forced herself to continue. "I had everything people dream of: money, clothes, servants, cars. But I had nothing real. No freedom. No love. Every step I took, every word I spoke was decided for me. My father, he never saw me as his daughter. I was just another part of his empire." Ravi listened quietly. He wasn't a man of many words, but his silence carried weight. Anika went on, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "The night I came here, I had walked for hours. I didn't care where I ended up, I just wanted to be far from that house. When I saw your light, I knocked. I didn't know you. I didn't know you would open the door. But you did. And for the first time in my life, someone let me in without asking what I could offer them." Ravi looked at her carefully. She was not speaking with the pride of a rich man's daughter. She was speaking with the fragility of someone who had been broken by her own life. Finally, he said, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "Because I didn't want you to look at me the way everyone else does," Anika whispered. "I didn't want to be Malhotra's daughter here. I just wanted to be me." "Anika." Ravi sighed deeply, running his hand through his hair. His world was already full of struggles, and now he found himself sheltering the daughter of a man who lived in the world of skyscrapers and riches. He worried what would happen if people found out. Yet, looking at Anika's trembling hands, he also saw a young woman who only longed for a simple human connection. "Mira doesn't know," Anika added quickly. "Please don't tell her. To her, I'm just Anika Didi. I don't want to change that." Ravi nodded slowly. "All right. I won't tell her." The tension in the room softened, but questions still hung in the air. In the days that followed, Ravi tried to act normal, though the truth stayed at the back of his mind. Sometimes, as he worked in his shop, he caught himself wondering what kind of life Anika had truly left behind. Other times, when he saw her laughing with Mira, he realized she was happier here than she had probably ever been in her grand home. One evening, as the three of them sat on the veranda watching the sunset, Mira rested her head on Anika's shoulder and said, "Didi, I wish you'll never leave us." Anika froze, her heart tightening. She looked at Ravi, who met her eyes quietly. There was no demand in his gaze, only an unspoken understanding of how much Mira had grown attached to her. "I'll stay as long as I can," Anika said softly, stroking Mira's hair. But deep inside, she knew that promises were fragile. That same week, news spread across the city. Posters appeared in newspapers and even on shop walls, photographs of a young woman with the words, "Missing, Anika Malhotra. Daughter of Rajiv Malhotra. Reward for information." Ravi saw one of the posters at the market. His heart sank. He returned home silently, hiding the folded paper in his pocket. He didn't want Mira to see it. That night, when Anika stepped out of her room to fetch water, she found Ravi waiting at the table, the poster spread before him. Her face went pale. "They're looking for me already." "Yes," Ravi said firmly. "And if anyone here finds out who you are, things could become difficult. For you, and for us." Anika's throat tightened. "I don't want to bring trouble to your door. If you want me to leave, I will." Ravi looked at her, his eyes serious but calm. "I didn't say that. But you need to be careful. Mira is just a child. She doesn't deserve to get caught in something she cannot understand." Anika nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "I promise, I'll be careful. I'll protect her. I owe you both more than I can ever repay." In that moment, Ravi realized something. Though she came from a world he couldn't even imagine, Anika was not a stranger anymore. She was part of their lives, part of their little family, even if only for a short while. And he knew that letting her go would not be as easy as it once seemed. The posters with Anika's picture spread quickly. Shopkeepers pinned them to walls, rickshaw drivers carried them on their dashboards, and neighbors whispered about the missing daughter of Rajiv Malhotra. The story had reached even the smallest corners of the city. In Ravi's neighborhood, people had begun to talk too. "Imagine," one neighbor said at the tea stall, "the millionaire's daughter is missing. Some say she ran away." Ravi listened silently, pretending not to care, though his heart was restless. At home, every time he looked at Anika, he felt the weight of the secret pressing harder. Anika, too, noticed the change. She no longer walked mirrored to school, fearing someone might recognize her. She stayed mostly indoors, helping with chores, studying quietly with Mira, or spending time in the little garden Ravi kept near the veranda. But even in the safety of the house, she felt the outside world creeping closer each day. One evening, Mira skipped into the living room with a paper in her hand. "Papa! Look, my teacher gave me this." She held up a flyer that had been placed at the school gates. Ravi's face tightened when he saw it. It was one of the missing posters. Before he could take it, Anika stepped into the room and froze. Her own face stared back at her from the paper, smiling in a photograph taken months ago at a public event. "Diddy, look. She looks just like you," Mira said innocently. Anika's throat went dry. She forced a small laugh and turned her face away. Ravi quickly took the paper, folding it. "It's nothing, Mira. Go wash your hands before dinner." When the child ran off, Anika sank into the nearest chair. "It's only a matter of time before she finds out," she whispered. Ravi placed the folded flyer on the table. His voice was calm but firm. "We'll deal with it when it comes. But until then, you need to stay strong. For her sake." Anika nodded, though her heart trembled. The next day brought another turn. As Ravi worked in his workshop, a sleek black car stopped at the corner of the lane. Two men in suits stepped out, showing the picture from the poster to passers-by. Ravi noticed them from the open door of his shop. He quickly looked away, his mind racing. When he returned home, he found Anika sitting on the veranda, braiding Mira's hair. The sight was peaceful, but Ravi knew it couldn't last. "They're searching near here now," he told her quietly after Mira had gone to her room. Anika's hands trembled. "Maybe I should leave before they find me. I don't want to bring trouble to you." Ravi shook his head. "Where will you go? Out there, you'll be recognized within a day. At least here, you're not alone." Tears filled Anika's eyes. "Why are you helping me, Ravi? You have nothing to gain." Ravi looked at her, his voice steady. "Because sometimes, helping someone is the only right thing left to do. I've lost enough in life to know the value of giving shelter when it's needed." His words sank deep into her heart. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not as a daughter of a CEO, not as someone important, but simply as a human being. That night, while Mira slept peacefully, Anika found herself unable to rest. She walked into the small kitchen where Ravi was finishing his accounts. "Ravi," she said softly, "there's something I've never told anyone. Do you want to know why I left?" He looked up, his eyes calm. "Only if you want to tell me." Anika sat down across from him. "My father, he always wanted me to take over his business. Every day was about numbers, meetings, deals. I wanted something else. I wanted to write, to travel, to live a simple life. But he never listened. When I refused to attend a meeting he arranged, we argued. He said I was ungrateful, that I didn't deserve the life he gave me. That night, I packed a bag and left." Her voice shook, but she kept going. "I know running away wasn't brave. Maybe it was selfish. But I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. Every smile I gave there felt like a mask." Ravi listened silently, his eyes thoughtful. After a long pause, he said, "Sometimes leaving is the only way to find yourself. But remember, the people we run from don't always stop chasing. One day, you'll have to face him again." Anika lowered her head. I know. But until then, can I stay here? With you and Mira? Ravi gave a slow nod. Yes. As long as you need. For the first time, Anika smiled through her tears. In his quiet acceptance, she felt something she had longed for all her life, a sense of belonging. But outside, the world was still searching. And one evening, as Mira played near the gate, the same black car stopped again. A man stepped out, staring at the house with sharp eyes. The fragile peace inside was about to break. The morning sun painted the sky in shades of gold, but the quiet of Ravi's home was heavy with tension. The sleek black car had returned the night before, and Ravi knew that the search for Anika was closing in. Mira, blissfully unaware, played near the veranda, her laughter a small shield against the storm that loomed outside. Anika sat by the window, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She had spent the night thinking about the life she had left behind, the father who would never understand her desire for freedom, and the uncertain future that now awaited her. Her heart ached not for the luxuries she had abandoned, but for the simple safety and warmth she had found in this modest home. Ravi stepped quietly into the room, his eyes scanning the street. They're still out there, he said gently. Anika looked up, her eyes meeting his. I know. I can't hide forever. Eventually, they'll find me. Ravi sat beside her. Maybe. But until that day comes, this is your home. And Mira, she needs you. Don't let fear take that from her. The little girl's laughter drew their attention. Mira was chasing a butterfly, her small hands reaching toward the delicate creature as it flitted between flowers in the garden. For a moment, Anika forgot her worries and smiled. This was the life she had been searching for, not wealth or power, but moments like these, pure and unspoiled. Hours passed. Ravi and Anika moved carefully around the house, ensuring Mira's safety, keeping the doors locked, and watching the streets. Then, as the sun began to dip behind the distant buildings, a knock echoed at the front gate. Anika froze. Ravi put a protective hand on her shoulder. Stay calm, he said. The gate opened slowly, and a man stepped inside, followed by another. They wore suits and carried a small folder. Ravi recognized the insignia. They were from Rajiv Malhotra's office. Anika's heart pounded. She wanted to run, to disappear into the shadows, but Ravi held her gaze. Face it, he whispered. You can't hide forever. But you're not alone. Taking a deep breath, Anika stepped forward. I am Anika Malhotra, she said, her voice steady despite the fear. The men nodded, relief visible in their eyes. Miss Anika, we've been searching for you, one said politely. Your father wants you safe. He's worried about you. Anika's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to run, to reject everything she had left behind, but she also felt something she hadn't expected, strength in knowing that she had someone by her side who truly cared. Ravi's quiet support, Mira's innocent faith in her, had given her courage. Ravi spoke firmly. She's safe here. But if you're taking her back, you need to understand she is not your property. She's a human being, and she has the right to choose her life. The men exchanged glances, clearly realizing the seriousness in Ravi's voice. After a moment, one nodded. We understand. Her father will come himself. He wants to speak to her, but he'll respect her wishes. That afternoon, Rajiv Malhotra arrived. The towering figure of authority stood in the small yard, his eyes scanning the modest home, then resting on Anika. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. "Anika," he said, his voice steady but unfamiliar in its softness. She looked at him, seeing the same man she had once feared, yet now feeling no obligation to impress him. "Father," she said simply. Rajiv took a hesitant step closer. Why did you leave? I thought you wanted this life. I thought you wanted to follow in my footsteps." Anika's gaze was calm. "I wanted a life where I could breathe, where I could choose. Not everything you wanted for me. I needed to find myself." Ravi stood silently beside her, protective but allowing her space. Mira clung lightly to Anika's hand, sensing the tension but offering comfort in her innocence. For a long moment, Rajiv studied his daughter. Then, unexpectedly, he nodded. I did not understand. I thought I was giving you everything. But I see now. I was wrong. If this is what you need, then I will respect it. But know this, you are always welcome in my home." Anika's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were different tears of relief, of understanding, and of reconciliation. She turned to Ravi, silently thanking him for giving her a place to find courage and clarity. Over the next few days, arrangements were made. Anika did not return to the luxurious mansion immediately. She stayed with Ravi and Mira, continuing the life she had come to cherish: quiet mornings, simple meals, and laughter-filled evenings. Rajiv respected her choice, visiting occasionally but never pressuring her. Slowly, he began to see the value of the simple life his daughter had discovered, and even Ravi's humble world taught him lessons he had long forgotten about family and kindness. One evening, as the three of them, Ravi, Anika, and Mira, sat on the veranda watching the sunset, Anika smiled softly. "I never thought I could feel this happy." Ravi placed a hand gently on hers. "Happiness isn't in wealth or power. It's in people who care, in moments like this." Mira hugged her tightly. "You're my family now, Didi. Don't ever leave." Anika's heart swelled. She had faced the world, confronted her fears, and chosen the life she truly wanted. And in this modest home, surrounded by love, she finally felt free. For the first time in her life, she was exactly where she belonged.